This week on Black Enterprise Business Report, what caused the most powerful CEO on Wall Street to walk away from it all? We'll discuss the rise and fall of this power player. Stanley O'Neill's journey to the top started in 1986. He left General Motors for Merrill Lynch, becoming vice president of its junk bond division. 6 years later, O'Neill became the first African American to head a major Wall Street brokerage firm, appointed chief executive officer, and in April of 2003, this industry outsider became chairman. From the start, O'Neill was considered a turnaround king. Merrill Lynch's stock price climbed 46%, producing annual profits of $5 billion between the years 2003 and 2006. But in 2007, the financial landscape changed. The subprime mortgage crisis hit Wall Street to the tune of $27 billion. Hardest hit, Merrill Lynch, with an $8.4 billion loss, making it the largest in Wall Street history. Earlier this week, Stanley O'Neill announced his resignation. Brandon Curry is one of hundreds of U.S. military veterans nationwide who is returning home from the war in Iraq. And like many of them, returning to civilian life has had its financial challenges.
I would certainly say the biggest change is going from a regular paycheck in a combat zone, on top of that making more money than I would normally to coming back to this setting and not really working and attempting to take care of my family and go to school all at the same time. With the kids' insurance, it's about $270 a month. We have, as I mentioned, the mortgage is about $900 a month. Car notes, $350. The utilities. In the winter, it's been as high as about $350 to heat the house, compared to, you know, we can run the house at about $150 throughout the summer. Water runs about $200 quarterly. So the bills do rack up, and like I said, you know, roughly $3,000 with everything combined. You know, we're taking big hits.
Mia Fields Hall and Shamika Bowman are best friends. Both just graduated from Hofstra University in New York, and both have huge student loans. But this is where the similarities end. Mia graduated with a job, Shamika didn't.
I do have a job, but with that I have to worry about paying, you know, off my debt. I have to worry about paying rent and electricity and all of those things that comes along with being an adult. So just paying off, even though it's a small amount, that's still more pressure on myself.
That's kind of hurting me right now, trying to find a job now because the consolidated loans are knocking on my door.
Helen Flowers, a single mother of two, spent a lifetime living in one of New York City's low-income public housing projects, and she wanted out.
I wanted better for my family. I wanted them to experience a different type of life.
It was a desire that led her on the road to building wealth through home ownership.
Let's hope this lady's home. We have good news for her.
Then she became one of 1,100 people to enter the Black Enterprise Own Your First Home contest, which awards $10,000 toward the purchase of a first home.
To just be selected was thrill. You know, somebody heard me, somebody saw my pain through, and I'm getting ready to cry, through the words that I wrote. Because when I wrote them, they were from my heart.
For the last decade, Ariel Capital Management and the Charles Schwab Corporation have conducted annual surveys measuring the number of blacks who invest in the stock market. This year, they found only 57% of blacks actively invest, compared to 76% of whites. This translates into African Americans having only an average of $48,000 in savings and investments versus $100,000 for whites.
Well, I think African Americans are more conservative because we haven't been investors for generations. We haven't had a chance to inherit wealth, as we know, because of the prior racism and discrimination in this country. Because we're not as used to the ups and downs of the market, we often get cautious and nervous and move out during tough times in the marketplace. And of course, it's so important to stay the course and be patient, but we haven't had that experience yet.
Marking Ingram is the 49-year-old founder of Mark Ingram Bridal Atelier, a company he created 6 years ago.
Nice to meet you. Of course, every girl comes in with 20-odd years of a fantasy of what her dream day is going to be like, what her dream dress is going to be like. We want to fulfill that fantasy too and let her try on those very dresses. I've always been interested and intrigued by brides. My grandparents lived in Harlem on West 137th Street, and every weekend we used to peer out of the window looking at brides coming out of the church. And so as a young child I had a fascination for weddings and brides. So it began maybe at age 3 or 4.
Carol's Daughter is the $10 million beauty care company with 4 storefronts on the East Coast. But 14 years ago, Lisa Price started this business in the kitchen of her 1-bedroom apartment.
I started my business as a hobby initially. I was very much into fragrance, and I made my own fragrances. And that lended itself to making products, and that lended itself to becoming a business.
This year, Carol's Daughter is expected to earn $25 million in sales, and while opening 12 new locations across the country while partnering with Macy's. Success, pardon the pun, never smelled so sweet.
If you want to get into comic books to make money, it's really hard. But if you're in it for the long haul and you have a business plan which says comics, movies, television, ancillaries, you can do pretty well.
As a general market, comic books, graphic novels, and related products posted retail sales of $570 million in 2005. For aspiring comic creators, it takes at least $6,000 to $8,000 to create a 32-page book. And attracting experienced writers and artists can cost an additional $500 per page. And this doesn't even include printing costs.
Oh, we got both covers up here now. Excellent. Oh,
Michael considers comic books a phenomenal learning tool.
When I was in 4th grade, I had a horrible, horrible reading level. I was reading at a second grade reading level. My mother brought me home some comic books one day, and I looked at the pictures. I was pretty much done. Then I decided to look at them again, so I decided to read them. It's a love of reading which started from comic books.
It also got him involved in art.
I was actually trained as an illustrator. You know, I went to some pretty prestigious schools, but the only school I'm really proud of is the High School of Art and Design in New York City.
So watch out, world. There's a few more superheroes in town dedicated to saving your life and your soul. When Rochelle Macklin's son wanted to know which part of Africa they came from, she couldn't answer.
For me, it was important to know because I kind of felt bad that I didn't know. And when he brought that to my attention, it was, at that moment, a pressing issue.
It's no secret that for many African Americans, pinpointing our ancestral origin was lost in the slave trade. But now Gina Page, president and co-founder of African Ancestry, can help us reclaim our past thanks to modern-day technology.
We use DNA to determine ancestry, and in the course of reconnecting people of African descent with their heritage and their ancestry, we transform the way people view themselves and the way they view Africa.
You can make an acquisition because there's 2 more in post right now.
Clanigan is the founder and CEO of Code Black Entertainment. He's also a pioneer in the straight-to-DVD market, a multi-million-dollar industry that has more and more people playing in Clanigan's sandbox. This year, his company is projected to generate $21 million in sales, and he will probably reach it.
When I first came down to Hollywood with aspirations to be a film producer, and I had scripts, went around to all the studios and basically got the door shut.
He started his career as a concert promoter, working with old school performers like Lisa and the Cult Jam, Run DMC, LL Cool J, and Will Smith, back when he was Fresh Prince, rapping with DJ Jazzy Jeff. So what's next for one of Black Enterprise's top Black Hollywood power brokers?
For filmmakers, it's still a hustle. It's still, you have to go from one film to next film. No matter if your last film did $100 million, you still have to go pitch that next film, because basically the studio's models are not African-American films. The studio's models are Spider-Man and Da Vinci Code. So you still have to fight to get your projects greenlit and getting made.